All right, bro. Happy birthday, man.
Appreciate you.
Yo,
Appreciate you.
I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Yeah,
Man.
and I was too. I just wanted when we connected, for it to be purposeful, for it to just be in the right time about the right thing and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I knew when this album was being wrapped up that I was going to reach out to you at some point to make this conversation happen. As we talked prior to the album even being a thing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just don't like. Just kind of not that there's not so much conversation that could happen outside of this, but I just feel like as far as like my purpose and what I aim to do in life, I think this is kind of the centerpiece of it. So
right. The album's fire, bro.
Appreciate it.
Beautiful Trauma 2. I didn't hear the first one, so forgive me. But I wanna unpack the album. But before that, what are you working on now? Like, what's going on? You got the media company.
Yeah.
How'd that start, bro? Like, that's crazy.
So the media company, I was working at Benny Dover, the Arts Magnet middle school over there in Benny Dover. I was a paraprofessional at first. It's working with the kids. I just love being around the kids. Throughout my entire like adult years of my life, that's what I've done. But there was a year where I got promoted to being the operations manager. So my role was to market and like promote the school and affect recruitment. And so the best way I knew how to do that was to just show what the kids were doing, show what the school was about. So I bought a camera and I started just filming activities, filming, day-to-day stuff at the school and after school extracurricular, events and whatnot. And when I would put out these, videos that I put together, people would reach out like, hey, like, we loved your video. Like, how could we book you? And I wasn't doing it for that at the time, but I'm like, maybe I could, right? Yeah. And so I did. I started, just kind of taking like little jobs and whatnot. And then I was like, I could, really control like my finances, my time a little more if I could just, turn this into something and whatnot. So launched a company and I really didn't have like clients. I didn't have things figured out yet, but it was cool to have a couple extra bucks here and there and whatnot. And just the excitement of, doing something new. Then the pandemic hit. And during that time, everything was shut down, right? Like we had so much extra time, like no one was leaving the house. And for me, I just had a lot of time to figure out my business. So like, figuring out how I wanted to approach this, how I would attack, moving forward and growing the company, sending out emails, reaching out to like potential clients. And I knew there was also a need for what I was doing because everything was virtual. So video, I knew I had the advantage if I could just position myself the right way. And it was when the pandemic hit where I was actually able to move on and do really media full time and move on from the schools. And I haven't looked back since.
Where's the name come from? You came up with that? Or?
Yeah, something I just came up with. ReelE Entertainment Media. Like, I was, just my music artist mind with wordplay. I'm like, all right, cool, film company. And I always thought like names and brands should be something kind of abstract. Like we never, like the biggest brands, we don't really know what those words mean sometimes. They're just like, they got like a little pop to them or something that catches your ear and eye. So just the ReelE, like I knew what it meant. I knew people may have to ask, but it's just ReelE Entertainment. ReelE as in film entertainment.
And the business started in what, 1918? So that's kind of like the inception, like
absolutely.
And all that.
And as soon literally like that year the pandemic hit, it was where I kind of took off from there.
I like to ask that question because a lot of people, during this time, a lot of people thought that the world was going to end, right? Like, what's going to happen? Like, how am I going to make my money?
Scary time.
Insurance. I was like, yo, what are we going to do? I remember telling my wife, I'm like, yo, just like, because we just had our son, or we were about to have my son. He was due in April. And I remember being like, I said, Claire, like, I just want to let you know this thing that's happening in China right now. If it gets crazy, like, we're going to hold it down. Like, I'm going to hold it down. It's going to be, like, going to buckle down. But then with insurance, you're thinking like nobody's gonna buy houses, nobody's gonna buy cars. Obviously people live in them, but no one's working. Things are shut down. But the complete opposite happened. You going through a business of like starting this, like this is kind of ground up, getting this thing kicked off. Did you have any like anxious moments of like, yo, how's this gonna work? Or because it sounds like what I love what you just said is you did a bunch of outreach, like just outreach. Like in insurance, what I do now, I should do a lot more outreach. I do more outreach for the podcast than I do for my own business, which that's another subject we could tap into later. But you did a lot of that to get your stuff, going. That's not a normal skill.
Yeah.
But for you, it sounds like that's something that kind of came second nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hustle in it is something that's always been like kind of just a part of me. Like just knowing that, you know, in our time alive that everything is in our control, man. Like we, you know, our output, you know, is just matched by, you know, what our effort is, right? Like what we're going to get out of things is what do we want to contribute? What are we disciplined to? And as far as like worrying about things not working, like, not to get all, you know, super deep into that, but like, you know, my faith in God, I just know like everything, anything's going to be what it's supposed to be. And, you know, just again, what I'm capable of, I know I could, you know, hustle my way through something. And then the things that I can't control, I know God got me if it's meant to happen. So there wasn't really any worries like that. Again, like I just I live a very simple life where I don't need much to be happy, right? So like, it's not like I needed a really media to make me a millionaire for me to feel like this was a success. I really just wanted to be able to do something where I had more of a control over how much free time I had and to be able to pay my bills and maybe do a couple extracurricular things that I enjoy. And, you know, bless that, you know, it turned into a little more than that, but, you know, I just kind of take things day by day and just enjoy what it is.
I think a little more is over exaggerated. I looked at those prices yesterday.
I mean, life is expensive right now. We had to adjust a little bit.
I went on there. I just want to see because I you know, obviously I've known you and I followed you for, you know, probably 20 years now. And I was like, I never looked in the business because, you know, I just see all your stuff, but I wanted to kind of just get, you know, the business model. I'm like, all right, let me look at the pricing because I'm kind of, you know, tapping into a little bit of cinematic stuff. Let me see what I can figure out. I'm like, all right, I get it.
I'm sure even looking like, you know, as you're investing in things. And, you know, I'm a Sony guy too. I see the Sony camera. Like when you start to look at like, and over time when you're doing things, you're going to realize you need certain things or you want certain things to make things easier.
No, not need. I want.
Yeah, you want, no doubt.
I get them.
And as you scroll through like B&H or Amazon, you see how expensive these things are, right? Insane. I wish, just information wise, bro, I wish when I was starting that I knew that you could apply for grants for your business and that there were resources, bro. Everything I got out of pocket, you know, so just like trying to work and, you know, whatever to afford to be able to buy the new camera or the backdrop or the one day renovate a space to have a studio in, or, you know, I need 3 more cameras or I need all these lenses.
And they offer grants for all that, huh?
It's not, And these just, well, I didn't get any grants for it, but crazy. Just to like know that there were other people that I would come across that did, or just startup businesses being able to, you know, get grants for like, you know, to grow their business, scale their business, or just exist.
Did you have a plan? Like, did you like map it out, or you just kind of jumped in?
I kind of wing everything for the most part. I plan lightly. Like, you know, I sit and think about things, and I write down my day to day, what I think I need to accomplish. But I didn't have like this 5-10 year plan where I said, yo, this first year is going to be this, man. Because I don't, you know, also part of my philosophy, I don't know if I'm going to be around 5 years from now, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
So
I just think with like insurance, I guess it's a moot point because I'll do like this massive marketing plan. Yeah. And then I like just kind of stray away from it because things just change and things move really fast. Sober. But, you know, I just always wonder, like with you're an entrepreneur, you know, business owner, like what's that look like for at that level? Because I have a W-2, I'm a W-2 employee, and you know, make my commissions and stuff. But they basically lay it out for us. You know, for you, like, what was just the first thing you thought? Like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do first. I'm just curious, like what that framework is, because I think it's important for a couple of reasons. We talk a little bit about your music, we talk about you, but I think it's important because this album really resonated with me, and I think that was the intent. Yeah. But I don't think that the intent was necessarily to be that way, and maybe that's just the creative side of it. But it was more about you, and we'll go into that. But I just think from a planning process, like, how do you just wing it and then be as successful as you are? That's crazy, man.
I think it's the discipline of what you're going to dedicate to. And when you give so much time to something, just that space and opportunity for things to happen and things to work out. And I think with ReelE Media, when I got my first taste of, you know, whether it was the first time I received a significant check, or when I realized I could move on from working in the schools, even for that, like when I did that, I wasn't well off before I could you know, move on and whatnot. something happened at the school I was working at, and I didn't feel really appreciated in the position I was in. And so I had actually got a contract for a year with the city of New London to do some marketing work and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Wasn't a big contract at all. I had no business moving on from my job with that, but like I just took the leap. And it was like, again, like I just felt it, if I was going to dedicate the time to it, and again, my faith in God, I just knew it was going to work out.
There's so many people and so many stories that you hear of, like they just said, all right, to hell with this. That's all it was. And just go in that direction.
And if it wasn't going to work out, it wasn't going to work out, and then I'd figure it out from there. But I didn't have like this concrete plan that like made me feel like I had this safety net.
What was the hardest part of it?
The hardest part, I say faith, but there's times where you're faced with things where you're like, all right, we know we have this faith. We know God is good, but I don't know about this right now. This is tough. So like, bills coming up and maybe not having the money for a bill, and like, do I need to go revert back to like, working a job? Do I need to apply somewhere? Do I, tough it out? I think those moments just like betting on yourself. Betting on yourself can be tough. In the face of adversity, right? In the face of things not working out. With film, any film person could tell you they've experienced, during the cold seasons, things just like not being what they were, right? Sure. Like, when it's warm, everybody needs film stuff. Right. Budgets kick in at certain times and whatnot. But when it gets cold around October, if you didn't plan for it, like you might go 3-4 months without any clients reaching out. And now you're like, oh, hold on. Like this seemed like something that was stable, but right now it's kind of tough. So I think just in those moments where things are not clicking the way that they were when you had, all the great feelings and the positive motion and whatnot, just saying, all right, cool. Like we're going to tough this out, and this is how we're going to pivot. Yeah. So the pandemic, it helped a lot with me having time, but that was a moment where I had to pivot everything I thought I knew about my business, right? Like like you said, things change all the time. So just being able to kind of like roll with the punches and say, all right, cool, this is how I'm going to adjust here. So the pandemic, one of the things that helped was knowing that schools, with sports, schools they couldn't have people in person. Yeah. So I was reaching out to schools like, hey, you know what? I could live stream. I could film. I could do these recaps. And a lot of the work I did, I got because I would do work for free to show my value and what I could provide, and then I would get business on the back end of it. Yeah. So like with St. Bernard's, my little brother was there at the time, and he was a senior. And so I knew they couldn't do senior night.
Play basketball?
Basketball, yeah. So I knew they couldn't do senior night. So I did, I volunteered to do a video of him and his other, his other teammate. And I highlighted them. I did an interview of the coaches, the students, and their parents. And then I put together this highlight reel with like clips of, from their basketball season and whatnot. So when I did that, I knew that, and on the other side, they would also say, hey, we can't not do this for the girls team or maybe some of the other sports team. And so I was hired to do those. And then
that's what you were hoping for.
That's what I was hoping for as well. Well, I was going to do it regardless because it's my little brother, but like,
but you're testing
absolutely. And my business mind was like, all right, cool. I know this could go like this. And then I know once you're in the rooms, like you're in the right room with, in the right rooms with people that, now conversations can happen and further opportunities can present themselves and whatnot. So, that's really what it is. Like I always knew the formula was talking to the right people, obviously saying the right things, and just being talented enough to provide and show examples of what you can offer. Yeah. And so I know that my fate is always in my hands as long as I'm going to put the work in, as long as I'm going to make sure that I make those connections, whether it's sending an email out, whether it's going to meet somebody in person, whether it's reaching out on social media and just having a product I could pitch to them and a potential plan that sounds like it could benefit them. Right. That's all work that I could control. Right. So I could mess that up by deciding I want to stay home and play video games all day. And I'm not going to put the work in and whatnot.
Carry it Tubman,
2K, man. NBA 2K, man. I mean, so
just messing with you, man.
Yeah, love.
We gotta have a little, time
you video game?
Yeah, play a little. So I think 2020. I mean, I have 2K. I usually buy 2K like every year. I stopped buying it in like, I don't know, 2023. When they go free is when I'll download them. I play like MLB The Show. I went crazy on NCAA 25 when that dropped. Me and Darren, we go head to head. We play. Yeah. we played over 100 games head to head. I got it logged, man. Yeah. Shout out to Darian, man. We spent like 150 hours playing that
wow,
game.
That's me on 2K, man. No Fortnite?
No Fortnite.
I'm a Fortnite guy.
I was a Call of Duty guy for years, and then I just, having kids and stuff is like I want to dedicate my time to playing. Like I love baseball, so MLB The Show actually drops next Friday. So I'll take my time with that because I don't have time to sit there like for hours to play. Call of Duty and stuff like that, like I used to. I would like to, but I can't. So, what's your creative workflow like? Let's start because we're on the film stuff and the ReelE media. Let's talk about the creative workflow with that, and then we'll transition into the music. Okay. Because I think that's important, and I think that you tapped into your creative mind from your hours and hours and probably hundreds of thousands of hours of music and transition it into this business. And I think that a lot of those elements of work that you put in when it comes to, again, I don't know how, I don't know what the game is like when it comes to music and landing, deals and all that stuff. You can maybe enlighten me on that, but there's a creative workflow of that. What's that like for you? And you just said like even doing that thing for St. Bernard's, like, how long did that take you to put all together? Like, what are you making sure that you don't miss on transitions? Because I'm learning about that, like angles and transitions and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the more you edit, right? It's just the more you do anything, like that experience, you start to realize, wow, if I would have done it this way, this would have been easier. Or, damn, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I would have got that when I was filming and whatnot. So like that's just a part of the process you can't skip, when you're starting to, or if I had this certain, we were talking about, like if I had this certain camera or this certain piece of equipment, this job would have went smoother. And that happens all the time. And as that comes up, as we have the means to, we'll buy those things, right? And we'll now have them for the next job. And then we'll realize something else, so.
That's why I have all this stuff here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I see a beautiful place, man.
Literally exactly that. Like I'm not even like messing around. Like, first I was doing the podcast at like different businesses and locations, library, and I'm like, man, I gotta have somewhere to just be stationed because to set this up at a library it takes like 45 minutes. And if the lighting's not right, and I know my lighting is decent here, like it's gonna throw it all out of whack. But then I came across the small rig light that I want to buy now, like or the ND filters for the camera or a different lens for the camera that I know is gonna give me more of a cinematic look when I'm working on certain projects. Absolutely. It's crazy. Like
absolutely,
it's hard to detach from that because you want to get better, and it's like, do I need it right now? And it's just so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I threw myself in debt with that same thing. This knowing, if I had this, and then just buying all of it. Like, we'll worry about the consequences later. That next job was going to come, and then like I mentioned, that cold season hit, and it's like, hold on, like I got to figure this out now. But so I do a lot of interview stuff too. So like a lot of my commercials that I do for companies, they're based around a commercial. They're based around an interview that I did with somebody, maybe talking about the program or talking about the company. And so again, like as you have the experience of doing it more and more, you'll realize things that you wish you would have done or you wish you would have captured and whatnot. So just while listening to those interviews, I'm already putting the edit in my head together. So like I'm hearing what they're saying, even if I have to, like I'll take notes on what they're saying or like make sure I map out the
while you're doing it. Like you and I are doing it right now, you're sitting there jotting down notes.
If I know what I'm going to film or what I need or expect you to say, I'll maybe put some bullet points down to make sure I capture those things. But even without writing it down, like just hearing what they're saying, like in my mind while I'm filming anything, it's like the edit's already happening. So like if I'm filming Sailfest, right? Like I did a commercial for Sailfest, I already know exactly what I want to capture to highlight this entire thing, right? So I'm like, okay, cool, I definitely need a roller coaster, I definitely want some fried dough coming out, I need the powder going on the fried dough, I need the person's hand grabbing.
And this from just experience or just like other things that you've watched, like what?
A little bit of both. I think at first, when you're this is with music or with film, like when you're trying to figure out your own style, right? Like we're inspired by things, right? You've seen podcasts where you're like, I like that look. I like the way these lights, these background lights hit the wall and it gives a little pop to it. I like the way, the way this is lit up in the background while I'm doing the conversation piece. And so first it's like you're seeing what you like and you're taking pieces from that. But at some point it's going to transition into, but if I also did this, and now this is where your flavor starts to come in. And you're going to be the content that someone sees and they're inspired by that one thing you did that other person didn't do and whatnot. So Yeah, so some of it, and no matter what I'm doing, like it was inspired from something at some point, and I just found ways to add my own flavor to it, or there was things I took away that I didn't like, or there were shortcuts I implemented into it just off of experience and whatnot. So,
do you script anything beforehand? Like, do you have it like written out? Like, this is kind of how I want this to look, and then like for me, like I'm working on a couple of things on. I'm working on a couple like it's called a WTF moment video, so it's like a quick like 1 minute cinematic video. And I'm going to do it based off of life insurance. I'm going to do one based off of homeowners insurance, but I have to script it out. Yeah. That's the part I kind of don't know because I've never done it. I'm tapping into this and I find myself, I'll scroll endlessly like on TikTok or Instagram and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm getting all these ideas, but then there's just too many ideas and I can't execute on one. Like, do you script anything like that? Like,
so sometimes there's times where it's like a hard script where I'm actually writing things out, like, and I'm storyboarding. And sometimes, like, I've been doing it so long where in my mind, I already kind of know what I'm looking to make happen and whatnot. But I think as much as we can, we should storyboard things out. You should, like, shot by shot, even if you feel like you don't have the means to make a certain shot happen, write it down for what you're ideally hoping to get out of your end result. And, then once you got that plan, you start to tailor, okay, I could do this. Okay, this is something I could maybe make happen. This isn't, let's remove that. I could maybe kind of sort of like script as much as you can. Storyboard it shot by shot. There's times where I'm doing certain, like commercials, or there's certain film where I do have to storyboard it literally shot by shot. Opening scene, kid walks into classroom. The next shot is going to be kid whispering to other kid next to him while the kid's walking in. Cut back to the kid's face while he realizes what just happened over there. So he's looking reluctant about sitting down now. Teacher tells him to sit down. Like, you want to really go scene by scene in your mind to at least visualize what you're hoping to get out of it. Because now you could plan. Now okay, I need these characters. Okay, or I need these 2 camera angles. Okay, I need to, the lighting has to move over here when this happens and whatnot, just to kind of make the day run a little smoother and whatnot. So some projects, I do have to plan things out a little more than others and whatnot. But I do think it could help. Know what I mean? Just to be able to kind of go through it in your mind before you actually have to go about carrying it out and whatnot.
Do you have a team?
Everything for the most part has, from the time I started, when I first started ReelE Media, there was somebody that I reached out to show me the ins and outs of camera work, right? Show me how to edit, whatever. There was somebody I respected. I don't know if you know Tiger Carper. He runs Soul Fuel supplements.
No, I don't know.
So they great organic supplements. They're really based around wellness. I met them through when I was running the talent show in New London, and he was just, when I had posted something online looking to pay somebody to teach me these things. And he just reached out like, you don't got to pay me nothing. Like, we'll just link up. So we'll link up at the social downtown or anywhere, and he'll just show me the ins and outs of editing. So this is before I launched the company. So when it was time for me I had already bought the cameras and stuff at this point. And when it was time for me to actually launch the company, I reached out to him. And I just I knew that when I, embarked on this ReelE Media journey, or this film journey, that it was going to take off at some point. Like, I knew I was going to dedicate that kind of time. And so I felt almost guilty if I was to do that with all this information that this dude generously gave me for free, if I didn't include him. Like, I was like, nah, that's just not me. So I reached out, I was like, yo, here's my plan. That's what I'm doing. I would love to have you involved. Like, I appreciate everything that you provided. Like, you created the foundation for the knowledge that I'm using to launch this thing. And, he was with it, and we jumped into the company 50-50.
Yeah. Oh, dope.
And it was dope, man. We did a lot of cool things. He ended up, more invested in the wellness company that he was. So years later, he split up so he could do that. Love. That's my dude and whatnot. But so for years it was just me. It's just me, and it still is just me with ReelE Media. But through time networking and connecting with people and meeting different, great people and whatnot, like, I did find people that when I do need a little bit of assistance, that they're able to show up. And, whether it's somebody running cameras, or somebody helping me, with an edit, or somebody doing the casting, as we talked about, with some of the stuff that I've done before. Like, I do have people in my network that fill the void of not having an actual team that's ReelE Media, but I do have a group of great people that I can reach out to when I need.
Dope. There's a gentleman I know, his name is Brian Ken. And actually I'm gonna have him on, and I think in 2008 when I worked at Best Buy, he was like, I'm pretty sure he did a a short film for Sundance then, and that was like, or it was like the
festival.
Yeah. I think it was, or it was like a contest that if this film won,
yeah,
it would go into Sundance, something like that. I think anyway. And I look at him now, my man is like, doing film all over the country. Like, it's insane. But it seems like it's a little bit of it's still an unsaturated market. Like, I don't see, I mean, there's companies and stuff out there that I see, and production companies and whatnot. But it seems like for you, there's a level of passion that you have for this that you probably didn't expect when you first started. So you go in, you have faith, you know what you want.
Yeah.
And like you said that I knew it was going to take off. But, and I guess I'll speak for myself, because I find like, I didn't think I'd be 62 episodes in.
Yeah. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah. But I knew I was going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it was going to be something that I actually become passionate about.
Yeah.
So with that said, is that like kind of rough draft of 2018, 2019?
All right. So anything that I'm going to invest the kind of time that I invested into ReelE Media, I'm gonna do passionately. I'm a wholeheartedly invest into it. I will say I never got into film by passion though. It wasn't something that I love to do. I'm a music artist by passion.
Right.
So with film, I wanted to do something that could provide more time for the things I wanted to do and the things that I was passionate about. And I wanted to do something where I could have control of my finances. Working in the schools and getting promoted to a certain position, and then to another position where things seem like, this is great, and then that position not existing no more. And now I'm back to square one. Right. And that happening a few times made me realize I needed to have my fate in my hands at some point.
Love that.
So the reason I picked up a camera, I also didn't want to start a business where I had to worry about inventory and stuff like that. I knew with the camera work, once I have the tools and equipment, everything's going to be profit from that point, right? Like I have to buy cameras and lenses and XYZ, but I know I didn't have to ever worry about the overhead of inventory and sizes and XYZ as a clothing company would. So I got into ReelE Media as a creative. Like it's a beautiful thing that I could do something where I'm able to use my creative mind. So there's that, in certain components of running a film company, there's things that I am passionate about, using my mind to create this, or to jumping into like my marketing, putting my marketing hat on and being able to impact change for a company as far as like visibility and appeal and to help companies in that way. But picking up a camera and filming things wasn't something where I was like, this is like makes me feel the most alive. Like again, I'm everything I'm gonna do passionately. But
how do you stay sharp? Like when things change, you're learning something new outside of buying more equipment. Because sometimes I was talking to Navon Ferraro, and I was asking him
super
about
talented,
bro, it's crazy. I'm trying to get him on. He's like, it's funny because he has his company, but he does not like being on camera. So I'm like, bro, we got to get him on. But I was talking to him. He's like, you could buy the most expensive camera, but as long as if you don't know the skill and what you're trying to create, none of that's gonna matter. How do you stay sharp? What do you work on?
So I like what he said entirely. I want to add to that though. I think at some point, bro, like you could know all the technical things about camera, and you could study about cameras, and you could study film and XYZ. But at some point, people are going to be reaching out to you to film because they loved your style.
Right.
And I knew if I could just create things and have an archive of videos in Frank Colmenares' style, that when people are reaching out to me to book me, they already seen that they love what I do, I would do it my way.
Right.
So a lot of the times that I'm booked, whether it's for a wedding or it's for a quick recap of an event or it's a commercial, they seen something in my portfolio that they said, hey, we want that. And I don't have to look any further, for what other people are doing and the extra skills that, the professionals have. Like this is the, me thinking when I first started to be able to carry out those visions, because that's just the way that Frank would shoot it. And, so yeah, I rely heavily on that. Like, we do want to learn. I mean, and we want to stay, like you say, stay sharp and, up on the trends and, just keeping it going. So, I'll watch a YouTube video. I'll watch tutorials. When I first started, the thing I did, I went on YouTube and I found this thing called Full-Time Filmmaker. And there was one particular guy that was teaching film in so many different ways. It's actually, he's the person that runs the Full-Time Filmmaker. And I just loved the way he was teaching it. They were interesting to me. I loved the style that he was shooting. And so I bought the course.
Yeah.
And the course broke down every kind of film that you could possibly shoot. It was like, if you're going to shoot a wedding, this is how you do it. If you're going to buy equipment, this is what you need. If you're going to film an interview, this is how we do it. And it was step-by-step stuff. And I bought the course. And, you know, again, that was the foundation of how I was learning the ins and outs of this and whatnot. And then I just, over time, like, adapted and changed it and put my own swag on it and whatnot. Fire.
And I think about just even with this, like, I'm working on a video again. I have a bunch of ideas now. The one thing this has done for me, it's allowed me to tap into creativity. I said this to ReelE the other day. I said with the podcast, it wasn't intent to be what it is today. It's evolved. Like I said, I started it as your platform. Now is the open exchange. It's about the exchange of ideas. You know, we live in a time where certain ideas get viewed as X, Y, Z, where you think one way, I think the other, and for some reason we can't be cordial about that, right? I don't agree with that, which is why I changed it to the open exchange, because I do want to have those kind of conversations with people who might have a different idea with me. But when I jumped in some of the stuff that I'm working on, I won't get too many details, but I'm working on a video that is kind of contrary to the belief of how you should start a podcast. A lot of things that you see about starting a podcast is you need to have a plan. You need to know what I would say from an extent, you need to know what you want to create out of it, right? Like, do you want money? A little bit. But my thing is just go, know what you know and just go. And along the way, I learned that certain cameras, my cameras need to be on, auto, airplane mode. I learned that this turns off every so often. These things that you learned along the way. I learned that I got to make sure that I hit the record button and not just go and capture the the stereo version of this. So, and I think that just ultimately the idea of anything that you want to start or create, and that's why I love what you did with ReelE. You just go for it, because yes, at some point you do have to kind of maybe do a couple bullet points that you want to do for maybe that day, and just operate that way. You don't have to operate at such a massive scale, and like you said, you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring anyway. Absolutely. So let's talk about beautiful trauma too. Absolutely. Because like I said earlier, I think that as I'm listening to it, and first of all, thank you for letting me listen to it before it came out.
Yes, sir.
I'm
appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah, I listened to it like 2 or 3 times because I really wanted to not just hear the music, but hear what you're saying. When I think about artists, when I think about, I don't listen to much Drake anymore, but back in the day, so Drake, I listen to a lot of J. Cole. Yeah. Kendrick drops an album. You listen because these are people you find, and there's the entertainment, and that's just my perspective of where I am with music. I like rap music. I love rap music. Yep. But with yours, there was an element of storytelling that was, and again, maybe you could tell me if Beautiful Trauma 1 was like this, but there was some like therapeutic stuff that you went through as you're going through this process of writing this album.
Yes, sir.
How long did it take you to write the album first?
Yeah, so contrary to what people may think, because I kind of put out an album for the past 3 years, every year I put out another project and whatnot. I'm not in the studio as much as people think that I'm in the studio. I'm not working on music as much as people may believe that I'm working on music. I get inspired, and so there's 8 songs on that. I'll get inspired, bro, and I'll write a song a day. Yeah. And so like I'll just bang out the whole project in a week or two. I'll get in and record it and whatnot.
That's dope. That's a talent, bro.
Well, so I think the key with that for me is I wait until I really want to make the music, and I really have the things to talk about that I feel like expressing, and then it's just go. Just go. So yeah, it doesn't take too much long for me. It doesn't take too long for me to create and to come up with concepts and whatnot. I kind of know where I'm going with these. So actually, Beautiful Trauma, the whole idea came from a film project in my ReelE media capacity. I connected with Ledgely Health District and a group called the Black Health Collective, and we were filming a series based around the idea that people that look like myself, like how we view therapy, like we don't feel like therapy is something that's for us, or historically it wasn't something that we were raised hearing about. Sure. Like, I said in the interview that the only time I seen therapy growing up was in a movie or on a TV show, and in that it was a white family. It didn't seem like it was something that was for us. But in this project, I filmed clinicians, I filmed a peer of mine, and just hearing their idea of their experience with therapy and things that we're going through, it just reassured me what I already knew, that people don't never felt like therapy was something that was really for us. And people also don't feel comfortable speaking up and speaking out about things they're dealing with, especially their hardships and traumas. You know, social media, now more than ever, it makes it harder for people to feel okay speaking up about the imperfections in their life when they have to watch, you know, memes joking about all of the situations they're currently dealing with, and people bash situations that, you know, they're actually, you know, currently struggling with and whatnot. So in filming that, my whole life I you know, was invested in doing things for the youth, on the talent show, Water Wars, you know, and, you know, so on and so forth. But like I had this feeling this push to want to do things for like peers of mine and, you know, people a little older, that unforgotten territory of 23 plus when you're not a child no more and everybody's now looking to create resources and avenues for you to be able to benefit from. And, you know, so in doing this film project, I was like, yo, how could I, you know, listen to these stories and do something to affect change in this space? And, you know, my first idea was to create an album. It was like, yo, let's do something through music. Let's show people through your example that it is okay to speak up and speak out, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay for things not to be perfect. It's okay for life to be hard. And let's talk about it. Let's do it in a very real way. And so for me, making the album, it was too easy, right? It was like, this is cool. Like, yeah, sure. I'm making this music album and I'm talking about my traumas in music, but this music sounds fly, right? Like it's easy for me to do when I can make it sound this cool. And so I was like, nah, we got to go a step further. And so I created an event where I would connect. It was at the Guard Theater, where I would connect with a clinician, therapist, and I would perform this album in its entirety and with a live band. And in between each song, I would be joined by this therapist on stage, and we would do my first therapy session in front of a sold out audience and whatnot. And they were able to join in. So the therapy session was my first therapy session, maybe somebody's in the audience's first therapy session. And it was just our time to come together to experience that. And, you know, that's where this project went to. And we continued to do that. We did other events where we were just spreading the idea of being vulnerable, being open and honest, and normalizing therapy. Yeah, and that's kind of where this came from.
That's dope. That's a dope concept. And as I'm listening to it, you know, it sounded like a journal, you know, a journal that you just kind of just put into this form of art. You know, I haven't listened to lots of music. Again, there's a lot of things there's similarities. I think we met maybe, I want to say 2016 is like, not 2016, 2006 or 7 is because I was going to Miracle Temple. Your mom went to Miracle Temple Church. We did the men's group of Rajay Godi and all that for a little bit. You know, then my most recent like memory of like when we reconnected is when the OG Water War started, when we were running around the city, you know, showing up to people's jobs. It's kind of a crazy time, yo.
Great time, man. What a time to be alive, bro.
That was a crazy time.
Yes, sir.
But that was like my recent connection, because then at that point, like I was cool with Isaac Goodwater, Molly, they lived around the corner, kind of same kind of like circle. But this, you know, I'm listening, I'm like, man, I didn't know a lot of this stuff about him. And you know, you reference your grandfather, your grandmother. There's 2 songs that really stuck out to me. The second song I thought was one of the best songs on the album. I jotted down some ideas that I wanted to talk about because you know, obviously it's an element of therapy, but I just want to know what's going on in your mind before therapy. Because I have never been to therapy, by the way, and not for the same reasons. Maybe just lazy, and I think that, like, you know, when you think about faith and putting things into God's hands, we still live in this earth, and we still do things, and we have to kind of figure it out on our will, right? And sometimes you just you're ignorant to what's going to be progression for you in your life. But the second song you mentioned, and I was very shocked to hear you say this, but I actually want to hear your more of the dialogue behind it, where you say that you are disconnected in a deep relationship level, but you're not when it comes to social relationships. What do you mean by that?
It's so easy for me to detach from people. Like, it's always been a thing for me. not that I connect with people on a surface level, but I think as like a defense mechanism, when I feel disrespected, when I feel like I'm not valued, and usually this comes with, you know, people that you probably love the most or that you know the most.
It sounds like it sounded like with people who are closer to you
always
than it is the outside circle.
Yeah. So even in that verse, I talk about like how I seem like so close with strangers, but like when it comes to the fam, I could be more distant. How could, you know, one of the songs down the line on the project, you know, I talk about how my family doesn't link on the holidays.
That was the next song that I was going to say.
Yep. And so, you know, just in that same idea, it's like, wow, like Frank, how can you for 13 years create a New London talent show where you bring together 1,350 people into a guard theater, and you work with kids, 50, 60 kids every single year, but you have nieces and nephews you haven't seen in months or years, or again, you could put together this grand event, but you don't link with the family on Thanksgiving, bro. Like you don't have no family gathering at Christmas for the past 10 years. Like, so it's things like that. And it's just something I had to take a deep dive into. And it's easy for us, I think, to start pointing fingers at people or in things to say this is why. But, you know, in this album, you know, during the creation time or just in my moments of reflecting, it's like, what's my role in that? Yeah. And, you know, so while I'm writing these things, these are fresh ideas. This is me playing a beat and these emotions hitting me, and me sitting in rooms by myself, reflecting and saying, yo, why is this? What is this? What are you feeling when you think that? Like, so I'm really just unpacking things myself. So,
what's going on with you while you're doing that? Like, how you feeling? Like, are you like getting emotional about it? Like, are you,
bro? There's tears all throughout this creation process. You know, in the album you got to hear, the first one I created and put out 2 years ago. So that album was the first Beautiful Trauma, where I unpacked all the trauma from the time I was born up until that point. The album you're hearing is from that point until now. So you're getting this 2-year window of time, as opposed to the other one being like, okay, let me really unpack everything from the jump. The first one talks about, you know, me seeing my mother be abused as I'm 7 years old, and for the first time, me telling her I seen it and us talking about it, right?
Wow.
Like, so there were things that like never came up. You know, a lot of things with the relationship with my father and, you know, that side of the family and whatnot. And so we go to this album here where you ask, you know, what does that do to me? And like, you know, how am I, you know, processing and what's happening? Creating the song, The Family Don't Link on the Holidays. We shot a video for it. We put it out. And because of that, you know, like I went to go see my grandparents, right? I, in that conversation with my grandparents, we're talking about, this is around Christmas time coming up. And I'm hearing, you know, just the emotions and everything in that, and us having open dialogue. I reach out to my father, who I haven't talked to in years. And, you know, from there, like I reach out to a bunch of the other family members, and we actually had a Christmas full of family this year, right? So like,
how'd that feel?
Oh, incredible, bro. Incredible. Man, incredible. All the emotions in the world, man, good and bad. Like, you know, so much time lost and, you know, feeling like, you know, wow, like it didn't have to go this way. It didn't have to go this long, but like, you know, God's time is perfect, man. So just the fact that we were able to connect, it was all love and, you know, it just felt like the perfect time for it. So I say that to say, like, you know, as I'm writing it, like the healing is even happening in real time. Like, I don't want people to think that this is like just some album where I try to pull together a collection of all the saddest thoughts that I could possibly pull together to make an emotional record. Like, this is stuff that's, you know, life-changing in real time. This is stuff I'm processing and realizing about myself and about situations that, you know, often I just kind of overlook and ignore. Like, for me, the easiest thing, which is, you know, touching on something I said, you know, probably a couple minutes ago, the easiest thing for me is to ignore situations or, you know, conflicts with people that we, you know, care about most, and just to kind of dead people or cut them off
or handle it defensively.
Absolutely. So I think that's the thing with how it's so easy to be connected to strangers and to be social, you know, to a bunch of people that you really don't give a F about, or you don't really know like that, or, you know, don't have as deep connections as the people you grew up with in the same household, or that, you know, you have, you know, that blood connection with and whatnot. And that's something that I'm really working at being better at, just being open and being a little more transparent with my emotions to people, and being more willing to feel things, being vulnerable and whatnot, and letting people know when I'm hurt about certain things. Or
that's huge, man. I love that you just said that. That's like, I think, you know, with therapy, again, having not gone through therapy, I think that it's almost necessary to go through it. I would say between like the ages of 28 and 35. We're still kids before that. You know, I talk to people all the time about, like, you know, I kind of put my life into this bucket of, you know, from 0 to like 15, and then, you know, you start meeting people, meeting girls, high school, sports, and you start developing a little bit of self and identity of who you are. And, you know, even before that, there's still influential stuff that happens in media, and obviously now it's probably 100,000 times greater in how people are influences the youth and whatnot. But then you got ages 15 to like, you know, 22. I was in college. That's like my formidable years. And I meet my wife when I was 23, and in 23 to like 30, you really, and this is not a disrespect to my wife or anything that we've gone through, but you said in one of your songs is that you change for people and putting yourself on the back burner. And I think that's where that kind of comes from. I think that when we mask emotion, we mask who we are as a person, it comes from the changing behavior, thoughts, actions for the sake of someone else.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't mean this in any way that it's just because you lose the ability to communicate when you become a yes person, and you want to do everything for everybody, but you don't do enough for yourself. And you get to, you know, 30, and you're like, man, why am I so like closed off? And you know, you start, so I almost think that you go through these years and you won't be able to process any of this, in my opinion, at a age of 25 or 26 or 27, because you're just 7 years removed from your adolescence.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of hard to tap into that. So, you know, I love that you use this moment for you to peel back the onion a little bit. Let almost a moment to find out who you are, more so than let people know who you are.
Yo, bro, like these days, just how genuine and the foundation for the relationships that I have with people these days, the foundation of those are so different and so much better, so much clearer, because I'm more conscious, but I'm also more willing to tell people, this is who I am.
Right.
This is how I am.
Right.
This is what matters to me. This is how I feel when this happens. And it just creates just a healthier environment for people to understand like who you are, and for you to communicate those things as well. Like you said before, we're just kind of conforming and trying to be the person to create the happiest situation. And usually it's us conforming to, you know, what works for somebody else 100%. And whatnot. And I'm so cool these days with like, the differences between me and people, right? Like absolutely. And it may mean sometimes that, you know, you just aren't for them, or you actually give a real opportunity for y'all to understand each other and to figure it out from there. But when you don't speak up about it, or when you don't, when you're not forthcoming, or when you're not like open and transparent, it's like, do we really even know each other? Like, you have relationships with people that you've known for 5-10 years, sometimes even, you know, a person you're actually in a relationship with, like, you know, a significant other, where it's like, you don't really start to realize who each other are until you butt heads about something. And now y'all are discussing it and whatnot.
One of the things, my wife said something really interesting to me, and I don't think she meant this in any way other than like, this podcast, she's gotten to know me more through listening to the podcast than actually me talking to her. And I was like, bro, what? That moment shifted kind of my perception on how I communicate with her. It's not that I'm trying to close off with her and shut her down or anything like that. It's just how I am just fundamentally wired. Yeah. So you have to be intentional with trying to make sure that you communicate things on a way that is intentional to grow the relationship, sustain the relationship, move forward. Let's achieve goals. We've achieved a lot in our life, and it's easy to look at, oh, we achieved it, but there's so much more that life has to offer us. Yeah. We got a few minutes left. It looks like my SD card's running
all good, all good.
But we got a few minutes left. What are you working on now? And where can people find your company, the music that you put on? I'll drop it in the link so people can download it. So that make it a little bit easier. But yeah, what are you working on now?
Yeah, so you can find really all of my work in the film space, ReelE Media, ReeleMedia.com. ReelE Media. You can find me on social media platforms. The project Beautiful Trauma 2. My name is Frank Colmenares. Beautiful Trauma 2 on all music platforms. I'm actually not really working on anything in the music creative space. Like this album is fresh, so I like to allow life to show me where I'm going with it, right? I like to allow, the genuine energy to kind of just, do what it's supposed to do and see where we're going with it. There will be some kind of events, I do hope to, as opposed to the first project, the idea was to introduce therapy to people. Sure. Now I want to help people repair family stuff. I want to do something along the lines of these therapeutic events where we're bringing families to have discussions. Like that's the hope. Otherwise, man, just enjoying life as it is, man. We excited. We launched a company where we're connecting some kids with mentors that need it now more than ever. Kids that are disengaged from school, maybe not showing up, and just getting back to that community work with the kids, and really. And I
mean, and if anybody hasn't picked up the theme of who this man is, I think it's what you're providing wasn't available when we were kids.
Absolutely.
And again, no disrespect to the people who attempted and tried. I credit my my direction in life to a lot of people, but the resources that you're providing and really passionate about, because it seems like one of the things that you care most about is making sure that the youth doesn't take a path that we all see of multiple individuals in our community. Yeah. We see people who've gone to jail. We've seen people who get pass away. Whatever it is. But you're trying to provide an outlet, and in that community is necessary.
Absolutely.
And my wife's a teacher in New London, and I hear stories and see stories, and I see people. My niece and nephew go to New London, schools, and it is in this time the most important time for kids to have a cycle of generational curses being broken, and I think you're providing that. So congratulations to you and your success.
Thank you, man.
Again,
likewise.
Happy birthday. Beautiful Trauma 2 out today, March 10th.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get this thing out pretty quickly, so people can listen to this and then hopefully download the album. So I appreciate the time, bro.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Always.